haven't been on to chat about voice in a while, and I just wanted to share some thoughts on moving past blocks and barriers in confidence when it comes to being fearful around transitioning into a space where you're vocalizing, be that using your voice in conversation, using your voice creatively, expressing your thoughts, feelings, and opinions with others, or musically, and how you express yourself in that realm. So when we are in some kind of stasis, or there's a feeling of a lack of movement or a lack of flow or energy that's supporting that, we just need to think about taking small steps that are incremental in terms of, if we imagine that the flow of energy within our vocal expression or creative expression is like a faucet on a tap, and we're hoping for a kind of steady stream of energy to be moving through that space. We don't want it to be excessively opened to the point that the rate of expression feels like it's beyond our control, or that it's unpredictable and that there's lots of spattering going on, and like an overflow of energy that doesn't feel manageable for us. But the idea that tap can be turned on and it's a nice running, flowing sense of there's no blockages or disturbances, there's no difficulty, there's no there's nothing holding us back. So if the tap is tightly twisted shut, or maybe there's some issues with the pipes, maybe they're a bit rusty, or maybe there's something clogging the system in a different part of the network, just to use that imagery and relate that to your own experiences, however feels relevant. We need to look at the different components, the different elements that support that framework, try and identify where there might be some problems, and we can isolate those, but with a view to looking at the bigger picture as well. Tightening or loosening one part of the system will have an impact on the flow elsewhere. So it's about doing things mindfully and with a kind of holistic perspective in general, supporting that awareness that there's a knock-on effect. Whatever you do in one register, say, will have an impact on the opposing register. Any work that you do on the kind of foundations and stability will support other aspects. So it's just a reminder to work small and make gradual adjustments. We don't need to take out the full toolkit and dismantle the whole thing. Sometimes it's a little bit of tinkering, it's a little bit of, trying one tool not to the ends of its limit, where you might actually cause more damage or create more confusion in your understanding of what the issues are, what's preventing you from flowing with ease in your expression. But just, tinkering and trying different things, just very gently, very gradually, enough effort so that there is the ability for you to be able to monitor and recognize any shifts or changes. And in that respect as well, little and often. So if you're making a change in your vocal routine or your kind of vocal health care, or just in your approaches to creativity and trying to kind of generate that energy within yourself, doing things on a regular basis will give you that sense of being able to track progress in a clearer fashion. And it's just, sometimes the hardest thing is getting started. Well, in fact, in my experience, it's often that is the case. So if we're completely frozen and we feel I've got no breathing space here, I've got no flexibility, I feel like I can't move in any direction, that's when I'm looking at the foundation or the core energy as it relates to that sense of voice. So from an internal space, like if I feel trapped in some way and that I cannot share that expression outwardly, then I know I need to come into my internal space and make small shifts and changes within that environment. And quite often a shift or change will be purely one with the mind. It will be a perspective shift. So if we're thinking about the intention that we have to express and communicate, that impulse comes from a spark or a thought, an emotion, something that then triggers a sequence of responses on a kind of physiological level, engaging, muscles like the skeletal system, your breath, all of these things working together in a harmonious way to then trigger this flow of creative expression. And I say voice, it could be your creative writing voice, it could be your creative singing voice, it could be any number of shades of possibility along that spectrum of expression. So coming into that internal space is sometimes about quietening the external environment, or quietening the mind enough to be able to be in a sort of receptive listening space. You know, if we've got a lot going on, that is somehow creating stagnancy in our energy, or disrupting our capacity for newness and for growth, because there's kind of all of these weeds, or you know, just stuff that's in the way. So getting some air around yourself, getting some air around, you know, that little seedling or that spark, however you visualize it best, and what kind of resonates with you. Either way, a seedling needs light, and it needs air, and it needs moisture in order to nourish it, to support it to grow. Like a spark, a flame needs air to feed it, so that it will burn and it has fuel. So with that being said, sometimes it takes a while to feel comfortable enough and to feel safe enough to be in a listening space with yourself. If, for example, part of the reason for our sense of stuckness or lack of confidence in sharing our voices stems from a trauma related issue. I mean, broadly, trauma has an impact on the voice, but if we're talking more specifically that an event or something that has had a big impact on your life has created a kind of a holding, or a freeze, or a flight response, or, you know, anything that's shaken you out of a resonant frequency that is about a nice natural flow, ebb and flow of energy, then the thought of sitting with yourself can be, you know, almost more overwhelming. But like, the truth of the matter is that as much as we might want to be in that creative space, there might be a backlog of stuff just behind us that we're like, if I open that gate, if I turn on that tap, I don't know what's going to flow out, and I don't think I'll have any control over it, and I don't know if it'll stop. I don't know if I have the capacity to be able to channel all of that energy that's very like raw and powerful, without causing myself more anxiety or more stress and tension. And I think at that point we just need to remind ourselves that when we think about the capacity piece, we are vessels, we are instruments, our body is the instrument. And although we can and we do hold on to trauma, and the body has this incredible capacity of memory in terms of how it stores that information, it doesn't mean that we should, and it doesn't mean that it's healthy to, and it doesn't mean that you know, inherently we have capacity to hold that as if we were a jar that can just like have loads of shit put into it, and that we can screw the lid on tightly and forget about it and hope that we will feel fine and feel healthy, and there won't be any possible manifestations of issues that stem from trying to hold on to this without releasing it. So it's you'll know yourself wherever you are on your healing journey with whatever it is you're working through, and until we give ourselves some kind of listening space that's without judgment and is at least holding an intention of, I want to support you, I want to be in dialogue with you, I want to hear what you have to say because it's important. The depth of that conversation doesn't have to go further than that if that doesn't feel, if you don't feel you've got the skills for that, or if you feel that you could actually use someone else's assistance in helping you try to work through whatever's going on. But it's that internal conversation of just a recognition and a kind of like, you know, I'm here and you're here, and I'm aware that there are some blocks that are preventing you and me, I and I, self and self, and I'm just talking about duality here, like a spectrum of, like, you know, intention to communicate, or like thought form or emotion, and then a final manifestation of that expression, be it through writing or through speaking or singing, and that kind of line there, and the block along that channel, if there are efforts from either side of that perspective to try and reignite that relationship in a way that feels that there is not disruption there, that can be enough to create a little bit of space, or to like chip away at something. Just, you know, it's like the cup with the string kind of idea of through the other side of the wall, like, you know, I can still hear you, I still know you're there, I recognize and value you. Just giving yourself a little bit of kindness, a little bit of space to be with that, and trusting that that is often the first step to new ideas manifesting for you, in terms of, you know, what's the next stage, or that it might actually start some kind of dialogue going where it's like, oh, thank God, I haven't spoken to you in so long, like, where have you been? This is what I need rest, or I need support, or I need to start painting again, or, you know. So obviously this is an approach to work with and adjust within the context of your own resources, and the kind of space that you have available to you, the kind of support network that you have available to you. If we're addressing challenging elements of trauma, it often makes sense to, you know, although that's a personal journey, knowing that if we are initiating a process and something comes up for us, that we have somebody that we can reach out to and connect with, to offer support at pertinent points. And again, that's a degree of trial and error in terms of finding root ways that feel nourishing, because going and talking to someone about something that might have happened to you can and is useful, but it's not for everyone as a route way in. It can be something that's on the cards, not on the table at all. It can be something that's used to initiate, or it can be something that's tapped into at a later point after doing something different. So as with everything, I'm sharing and relating based on personal experiences, and you know, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't, and just go gently, and little and often are the main takeaways from that. So yeah, I will be back again soon, sooner rather than later. Lots of kind of big shifts and changes going on in my day-to-day practical circumstances, so trying to find a rhythm and routine again, and look forward to sharing more insights with you as they're coming through. And yeah, keep voicing your needs, and keep expressing your truth, and yeah, we'll see you on the other side. Take care.